A little Miss Lou. How Jamaican poet Louis Bennett Coverley found her voice. Written by Nadia Hone. Illustrated by Eugene Fernandez.
Harmony, Mosquito, Irie, Dirty Tough, Silhouette, Pumpkin, Likkle, Gully, Pie Tree, Mango, Kalalu.
Louis Bennett loved words. She played with them. She ate them up for breakfast served with roasted breadfruit, ackee, and saltfish. She swallowed each word whole. When it came to speaking, Louis's words got stuck in her throat. But she found a way to unlock them. Her pen was the key and her notebook the door. At school, Louis's teachers thought that words had to click like clacking wheels and that sentences should line up like the tram car tracks in Kingston. Louis got good grades, but she wanted more. May 1st, 1928. I wished that I could be a poet great and with my pen trace paths of peace and harmony for the uncertain minds of men. Louis. Each day, she passed them and worked in the Kingston streets, weary and glistening in the broiling heat. They heaved and puffed, filling the sides of the dirt road in a rhythm. Hilangoli ride oh, hilangoli. Hilangoli ride oh, hilangoli. And a bendong low, a hilangoli. And a bendong low, a hilangoli. At school, Louis tried to find the bendong low dong of the men's shovels. She wanted to hear their songs on the paper, the bass in her pen and the drum from their words. Louis was lost in her thoughts, wondering what voice she should listen to. The one with the words that line up like schoolgirls in starched uniforms? Or the other voice? Louis Bennett! Her teacher called. You need to be writing. One day, Louis got in a crowded tramp car to go to the picture show. She saw a little space at the back between some market women holding their wares. Spread out yourself there, Eliza, one woman warned the other. Dress woman a come. Like a Dr. Bird's wings, the words tickled Louis's ear, and like peanut drops, they stuck. That evening, Louis sat down to do her homework. The special sounds snuck into the margins of her notebooks. Something smart, something clever. What's this? Her teacher asked in class the next morning. This is not fit for a top school. It is certainly not why your mother sent you here. At home, as her mother worked, Louis watched the peeled junk crows sitting in the treetops. They reminded her of the stories she heard during visits to her grandmother in St. Mary. Louis had listened to the country people singing, Elena namuma godonga grung, Ellen stop ball for belly. Louis held her stomach too, remembering her day at school. Everything all right, Pipsy, said Mommy, as she moved the cloth under the sewing machine's darting needle, stitching the fabric together. Susu, punonunus, talawa, picnic, bangarang, misunkom, bangra. That night, Louis heard the door creak open and clang shut. The teacher lady was leaving as the higgler lady came in. Their words danced through the walls lively, and Louis's ears perked up. Good evening, Mrs. Robinson. I must say I love this silhouette. Come here, ma. Nah, miss. The frock fit you nice. Mrs. Robinson, you have outdone yourself once again. That style wearing now. Lois drifted off to the rhythm of Mummy's heeled shoes hitting the tiled floor and lifting the pedal. "Get all your things, Bibbs," her mom said the next day. "You're going to a new school." Lois was shocked. But when she looked at the name of her new school, she loved it immediately. Excelsior. The letters tasted like the crisp water crackers she loved to eat with Mummy's thick Saturday pumpkin soup. September 12, 1928. It was a warm September day. Along North Street I made my way. I stopped at the gate and heaved a sigh. One word caught my eye: Excelsior. At Lois's new school, teachers encouraged students to memorize poems. Then on Friday afternoons, they recited them loud. Lois thought of speaking in front of her new friends and teachers, and she panicked. The words lodged in her throat again. When it was finally her turn, Lois remembered the ladies on the bus. They were funny and chatty, bold and confident. She opened her mouth. "Spread out yourself, then, Eliza. Dress woman a come." She see the little space side of we and want poke herself in there. "Spread out, girl. Should I come? No space in here at all. Who make you fool so, Liza? Spread out yourself, no girl." Lois waited. Did her classmate hate it? Would they think she didn't know how to talk right? Would her new teacher scowl her? Instead, her classmates roared with laughter and clapped. Her teacher, Mr. Powell, even smiled. Everyone begged her to recite more, and she did. A new poem every week. Lois had finally found a safe place to share her loved words. And one day, she would take them to the world. A note from the author. During one of Lois's performances, the playwright Eric Chalk Talk covertly sat in the audience. A friend had shown him some of Lois's poetry, and he'd liked it right away. At the end of the show, Lois won a book for outstanding literary talent. She asked Mr. Chalk Talk to sign it. "Great success to you. You possess an unusual talent. Develop it," he wrote. It took a few tries, but Eric convinced Lois to perform her poetry at the Christmas party at Polk Methodist Church in 1936. Everyone laughed and enjoyed the performance, and Lois was paid enough to buy a new pair of shoes. Lois's dialect poems sounded like the speech of everyday Jamaicans, poor and rich, light and dark. They sounded the way that her grandmother spoke. Even the ladies who spoke their careful words in proper English knew how to speak in Jamaican patois, which is another word for Jamaican English. Lois submitted her poems to the Daily Gleaner newspaper, where they were at first rejected. But she kept sending new ones. And when one was published months later, it was an instant hit. My introduction to Lois Bennett Coverley was in a library book called Mango Spice, 44 Caribbean songs and its accompanying tape recording. These materials were filled with Jamaican folk songs arranged or written by Miss Lou, as well as music from other Caribbean islands. My younger sister and I were children at the time, and we were so excited to find a book that reflected our culture and sounded the way we spoke at home. We memorized the songs as we fumbled their melodies on the piano. Hearing our efforts jogged the memories of our parents who had immigrated to Canada from Jamaica in the early 1970s. With smiles on their faces, they told us of Miss Lou and her radio show, which they had listened to as children. Born in Kingston, Jamaica, On September 7th, 1919, Lois Bennett Coverley was raised by her mother, Karen Robinson, a dressmaker, after her father, Augustus Cornelius Bennett, passed away. After her time at Excelsior College, Lois decided to get more formal training in drama. She was offered a scholarship to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London, England in 1945. She was the first Black student. She was also the first Black person to host a radio show on the BBC, a British radio network that broadcasts its programs around the world. Lois Bennett Coverley's impact has been felt throughout the Caribbean diaspora and the world. She shared the mental folk songs, proverbs, and stories of Jamaica in her books and in her performances on stage, on the radio, and on Ring Ding, a children's television show. She married Mark Chalk Talk Coverley in 1954, and they worked together on many projects. Lois and Eric raised his son, Fabian, and adopted other children. Lois lived in Jamaica, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and she spent the last 20 years of her life in Canada, where she died in 2006. I would have loved to meet Miss Lou. Like her, I am a teacher, an author, and a budding playwright, and I love to sing and perform Caribbean folk songs dressed in traditional costumes. Miss Lou performed in Jamaican English at a time when speaking the language was discouraged. Thanks to her, patois was embraced internationally, and she created spaces for poets like Muta Baruka, Linton Quincy Johnson, and singers like Bob Marley and Harry Belafonte. My first picture books, Malacca's Costume and Malacca's Winter Carnival, are written in both Standard English and Caribbean patois. We owe all of this to Miss Lou. Thank you, Miss Lou, for the many gifts you have given to this world and for being a phenomenal woman. In your words, may we all walk good.